Hi, everyone, and welcome back to this episode of Bleach, Please. Today, I'm so excited to have Lynzie. She's the founder and CEO of IBP Pro, and I'm so excited to have her join us and tell us a little bit about her journey, her story, and so much more. So, I want to start with you, Lynzie, letting this community know a little bit more about you and all about the brand behind you.
Sure. So I'm Lindsay. I am from Michigan originally in the US. I lived in Chicago for 12 years, built my business behind the chair there. I moved from a pretty small town in Michigan and knew I wanted to be in a major city to really learn from other artists, learn from other experiences. And so I started out at a commission based salon, which was phenomenal. I felt like I had almost a little beauty salon family to help really guide me. I was 20 years old at the time, so I was a baby. I had no idea what I was doing, and I had never even been to Chicago. So I was learning all the things along the way, and I felt like that sense of mentorship that I received, not just from the owner of the salon, but also from my coworkers who were further along in their journey, was so crucial and valuable to me kind of structuring myself as an artist and learning quickly. And then in 2012, after about 4 years working with them, I had started to focus on texture. So I worked with a lot of like wavy to super curly clients. And my business had really taken off. I had went and attended some training in New York City, and that really created a more well-rounded portfolio of my own work where I could really confidently say I could work with anyone's hair texture, anyone's hair type. And so after a little bit of time, it felt like I almost had hit a ceiling and I needed more opportunity to grow and expand. And so I decided to become independent, rent a chair. And I will admit that my expectation of kind of creating that same community and having that same feel somewhere else was not exactly how it went. I was really surprised at how hard it was to find that same connection that I had in my small salon that I was with. Um, and so that was, I think, my first eye opener that, like, in the process of entrepreneurship and the journey of being a business owner, it can start to feel really lonely and isolating. And you're wearing all the hats, you're doing all the things, and the responsibilities are all on you. And that can feel very intense. So I kind of at that point recognized the need for more education around being a solopreneur in the beauty space. But I wasn't quite ready to step into that myself yet. I just wished it existed. And then fast forward a few more years, I had done some coaching one-on-one. I would work with other artists, helping them transition from commission to suite rental. And it felt like in those conversations, obviously I was being paid to share my areas of experience and expertise, but I felt like I was taking so much from them. Everyone I worked with, I felt like they had so many great ideas and such insight into things that I hadn't thought of. So then it became clear that there should be more collaboration where there's so many avenues in the beauty industry. We all have so many different areas that we've focused on that when we come together and share all that together, we can all grow. Everyone can grow. And so that's really when Independent Beauty Pros became an idea that there should be a space for independent artists, coaches, and educators to collaborate and share and network.
Amazing. I mean, like it sounds like it was just an overnight thing, but that must have been a lot. Hey?
Yeah, it was actually far from overnight. That kind of process, I feel like the idea was around like 2017. I purchased the domain for IBP in 2018, worked with a web developer to build out our web-based platform, and then I sat on it for 2 years. So
Wow.
it was not overnight at all. It was far from overnight. But I just had such a fear of stepping into this unknown space. I'm a hairstylist. My area of focus and education was around the technique of doing hair, and I felt like how can I step into this big idea and have it be successful? I'm not a tech person. I don't have a technology background. I don't know how to do any of the things I want to do. And so that fear really, I mean, it was almost paralyzing for quite some time. And then COVID hit, and it was kind of now or never, launch it or let it go. And so we launched April 2020.
Good for you. I mean, like I can relate on that side of things too. I think if we go back, I would love to like there's one thing that you said is like, you were in this commission based salon and like you were super happy, you had all this stuff, and then like, I want to go back and unpack that moment that you were
Yeah.
like, this isn't enough for me. Like, I need to go independent, because there's so many people that are in, like, they're walking that tightrope right now.
Yeah.
And I think for years, it's kind of been like almost like you're trying to escape something. So you're grabbing anything you can and then you leave. And like you might not have a lot of things planned when you get there. Whereas I think what you've done is you've created this this organization where people can find more information out before they take that leap. So
Yes.
if you come back to that feeling of being, oh my God, I'm going to do this, I'm going to take that, like, walk us through like what that feeling was and what type of confidence did you have to be able to take that decision to say, yes, I'm going to go independent.
Yeah. It was such a snowball. It was like all these little things that all of a sudden became like so big that I couldn't not do it. And I think that was something that the fear obviously was there. But for me, so I had went out to get more education specifically on men's cutting. So I worked with American Crew because I felt like that was an area where I really struggled. I just did not feel confident with clipper cutting, customizing cuts for men, any sort of like grooming, barbering skills, men and women. But I felt like that was an area that I struggled with. And then texture. My hair is pretty fine and straight. And so those two areas I felt like I needed more education. So that's always been a focus of mine, finding education, making sure I'm well-rounded. And then when I came back from both of those experiences, being in different parts of the country, getting a ton of education, and then coming back and seeing my books, increase, my pricing could increase. I had clients pre-booking further out. I had more referrals coming in, and it started to feel like, okay, I've got this. I'm doing
Yeah.
this. It's working. And then I also at that time had started to really focus on bridal and photo shoot work. And so for me, it was kind of, especially in the texture space, I think bridal, especially at the time, maybe like in that 2010 to 2012 range, to be an artist who first and foremost does bridal and then also does bridal for texture, where I can confidently style someone's hair
Amazing.
with their natural texture. It was a niche that was really necessary, especially in Chicago. It's a very diverse city, lots of textured hair. And so it was kind of like I had all these ideas, I had all these things I wanted to be doing. And bridal was really the first pain point that we noticed collectively at the salon. So the salon owner, he, again, such a mentor in my life, and so supportive of even my decision to leave, which is not always the case. Sometimes that's a struggle. But he and I both kind of recognized that for me to go on location on a Saturday to book a wedding, I would have to generate enough revenue for him to have his chair sit empty on that day. And so it was just it was this pain point where like, how does he, generate the revenue he needs for his business? And how do I get to expand and grow and be creative and focus on the areas that I care about? Our salon space was too small to have a bridal party come into the salon. So it was always me leaving on location. And it was just the first kind of area where we were like, it's not working. And so
Yeah.
how do we like first try to make it work? And then once we recognize it's not going to work, how do I exit gracefully? And like, how do I do so in a way that's respectful of both of our businesses and both of our, advancement in the industry? And so I remember him when I gave him my key, I remember him standing there, giving me a hug and telling me that there would always be a space for me. And again, that was just exactly what I needed. And in that fear-based space of like, what am I doing? Is this a good idea?
Yeah.
Like, so to have someone who said, yeah, go do it, go do it. And if it doesn't work out, come back. That
Good
was
for
just
him.
such a awesome space for me.
Well, I think it's like also, well, kudos to him, because I think how people leave you says a lot about your mentorship, um it says a lot to, who you are and the respect you have for people and the people that work for you. Um and then also I just want to say that, like, for anyone that is watching and listening this, it's you're probably in this moment where you're like, I want to do this because I've outgrown my salon. Like, there is no other steps for me, like, unless I become a part owner, and I want to do something on my own. And you're
Mm-hmm.
probably feeling like you've built this clientele up, you're branded, you want to kind of do your own thing, and you want to have more control back into your own life and your own schedule. And so I always say, I think the only thing you're worried about is one conversation. You're probably
Yeah.
only worried about an exit conversation. And so I think, if anything, is that you're not doing anything to this person that you work
Right.
for, you're doing it for them. And when you leave, you give the chance for that owner to build more policies or more procedures or more ways of having more communication with staff that still exists there. So you're
Yeah.
not doing anything to take away. And I think you can kind of relate there. Like that's why you have so much respect to your former owner, because he gave you he allowed you to live, on your terms and what needed to happen. And I think that's such an amazing thing. And I think our industry needs more belief in each other, and we need to just plant more seeds to keep each other rising and make sure that we all belong, right?
Yeah.
It's like it would suck to like graduate from your high school and then your high school be like, never come back here again.
Can't,
We
yeah,
never want to
never
see
come
you
back.
again, right? Like there's a
Yeah.
time where your staff is going to graduate, they're going to leave and they're going to go on their own. So even to when you think of mostly when you're independent now and you're on your own, like how do you create that, that experience on your own, right? And so that's where when we start to lean into things like the network and creating a network, that's exactly what you're talking about, because now you're on your own, you're
Yep.
starting this super exciting, but you're like, oh my god, I'm my own boss. I don't have employees, I don't have any other coworkers, so it can get really lonely. So let's talk a little bit more about building that network, like building IBP. And also, again, thank you so much for doing this for the community, because I've seen this over and over, that there's just so many people that get into the suite rental or they get into independency, and then they're like, oh my, they lose their drive or they lose
Yeah.
passion or they leave the industry altogether. So thank you for contributing to the industry this way. And I just would love people to understand about that network, creating that
Yeah.
network, and what IBP Pro can do for people, especially people who are just branching out on their own.
Yeah. So to talk about like that process, the reason why that happens, where independent artists, get to the stage where they burn out, they don't want to do it anymore, or I mean, our industry has such a reputation for people leaving the industry, like literally changing career paths, going in a totally different direction. And the reason that happens, especially with independent artists, is because you're doing everything. You're literally managing every piece of your business. And a lot of times we forget that like we are creative people, like we're creative artists. That's why we probably got into the beauty industry to begin with. And so when all the other things kind of start to crowd in and you no longer get that creative outlet, it's easy to struggle and suffer from burnout. And so I think the big thing that I've realized in my journey is that when I can connect with other artists directly, I get inspired from them. I get their, energy. I get inspiration about what they've got going on, what they're working on, education they're attending, whatever it might be. And so I think we saw really quickly, especially last year when we were all in various shutdowns, that connection was what was really missing for a lot of us, especially being suite renters, being in our own space solo, where we're not able to kind of like have that camaraderie like a traditional salon may. So I think the first piece is like being able to first see the value in networking with other artists. So I think that's something we've grown so much, I think, in the 10-ish years since I first became independent. People see the importance of collaboration. And I
Yeah.
think more and more people want community and want to work together and learn from each other. But honestly, like the mentorship that you can gain and the mentorship you can give, like I said, I feel like we literally all have something we can teach someone else, and we're always going to have more things to learn. There's never going to be like, ta-da, you've like hit the final level and you're now like never going to learn another thing in this industry. So I think that's like this really important mindset, that if you go into networking with like, what can I give? Not like, what can I take? What can this person do for me? What can they help me with? What can I get? More like, what can I share? Like, what have I experienced that somebody else would really tap into or connect with? Like, how can I provide that for somebody who's maybe just stepping into being a renter? I had a call this morning with a woman who she's starting her own business in September. And we had a whole breakdown of like, okay, what do you feel the most overwhelmed by? What's like the most intense right now for you? And like, just hearing like, we can all relate to that stuff. Like, it's universal. We all have fears. We all have self-doubt. We all struggle with like even processes of how to do things. And so when we can kind of take down that veil of like ego that makes us not want to admit that we don't know something, all of a sudden that's when you can learn and grow from other people really quickly. And that will prevent that burnout from happening. That's how you get through that, is by recognizing that like, okay, I've got too much on my plate. How do I connect with people that can help me offload some of this stuff? Maybe I need a coach. Maybe I need education on social media or branding, whatever. how do I outsource? And then how do I get back to my creativity? And how do I find inspiration from other people who are like-minded?
Yeah, I think that's like, I think um something that I find is like when you go and you become like a first time suite renter or independent, you get to do everything and you get to learn things from, maybe reading a P&L to really understanding inventory, maybe you're understanding pricing, how to set up your pricing properly.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's where we really, with Salon Scale, that's where we talk to a lot of new suite owners is about pricing. That's where we kind of
Yeah.
help them the most. But it is the most incredible thing to be in that mindset of someone when they're like taking this decision and they have full control and how they break things down and process things. Um, it's empowering that we have communities like ours and yours that are there around those moments, because when you started, like, this didn't exist.
No.
And I think when I'm talking with you about building that community, I think one of the hardest things is also like hairdressers are really good salespeople, but they're also the hardest people to sell to. Like, and so when you're like, I mean, you and I can kind of relate to this. It's like
Yeah.
all we want to do is show up and provide advice and help and guidance. We're not like trying to take, we're kind of trying to give. But the first couple of years of building these communities, like anyone again watching this or listening to this, it is painful because there's so many more no's and so many people are like, yeah, I guess I'll show up, or like it takes a long time. So let's talk about building that network, building that community. Like, what did you do to like get momentum where people started to finally say yes and show up to your community?
Yeah. The number of cold calls that I made between April and July of 2020 is like cringeworthy. It was literally me. It was me like this saying like, hi, I was a solopreneur for, a decade. I struggled with this. Is this something that you would value? Is this important to you? And the number of no's where I was like, why? Like, what? I don't
Yeah.
understand. Like, tell me why you don't think this is necessary? And then it was just those first kind of the first few people you connect with where they are like, yeah, whoa, that's awesome. Like those first like buy-ins where like, again, I'm at that point, I was not selling anything. It was literally free. I was literally just trying to get feedback of like, am I on to like anything, or should I just like burn this behind a bridge? Like what's going on? And it was honestly like that conversation, like those first few people that like totally understood like exactly what I was saying. And I didn't even have to sell. It was sort of like all of a sudden we were both like, yeah, and then this, and then what if it did this? And what if we created this? Like that was sort of the momentum that I needed to kind of understand that this is necessary. It is needed. And there is a space where people want to be able to collaborate. But like you said, it is the most, you were on our podcast and we talked about this. You're not getting any validation for quite some time. You're basically getting no validation from
Yeah.
anybody. You're doing all this work and it's so hard. It's just so difficult. And it's easy to quit. I feel like there were so many moments when I honestly could have just been like, you know what? Great idea, not for me. No thanks. Too hard. And I could have easily just went right back to working with my clients who every day were telling me how wonderful and talented I was and
Yes.
then paying me money. So it was like win-win all the way around. But at the end of the day, this is like a calling of mine now. It's such a deep why for me, because there are now so many people, even again, the woman who I spoke to today, who was like, thank you so much. This is exactly what I need to feel safe and comfortable and ready to do this. Like that is one sentence that will fuel me for the next 6 months, because again, I know that there are enough people out there that are just like I was when I was
Yeah.
starting, who need this and want this. And again, it's sort of like when we talk about community, like community is so abundant. You don't have to be in one community. You could be in dozens of communities. You can connect with so many different like platforms, spaces, education. Like I think that's what's really unique about IBP. So Salon Scale is one of our partners. And again, to me, I feel like I want to be collaborative with Salon Scale forever. I don't want it to be a short-term partnership. I don't want it to be
Yeah.
for a promo code and a discount. I want it to be ongoing because we're supporting artists. We're supporting people who are looking for that community space. So again, what's great about our platform is that we have independent educators, we have independent coaches, we have independent artists. We have barbers, estheticians. It's everyone who's in that space of being on their own, who completely understands what that's like and how to work together.
Well, I like you're such a, great community builder, and I watch you and I'm just like in awe on how you keep the ball going, which is really hard to stay organized. I think that's the hardest thing, is to keep showing up even on your good days and your bad days, but having a community, you still have to show up, and a community just can't be bought. Like I mean, some people try to do this, but you can't buy a community. Ultimately, it's the relationships that you're building that
Yeah.
build that community, and it's what the people are saying outside. Like, I think that's the one thing I noticed even when I was in your community, talking with a group of people, and then people are talking about like hair love retreat, and it's so nice to see how the communities are intermingling with others, and it's a safe place to talk about just where success lies, and where we all belong.
Yes.
Because I know this 10 years ago, we wouldn't even be talking. you
Right.
know
Yeah.
10 years ago, you wouldn't even talk to anyone in your own city. Like, it was like unfamiliar to like
Mhm.
talk to another salon in your city. It's like, whoa, we would do that. Now you're seeing people meet up for cocktails, or take classes or courses, or whatnot together. Even sharing product, I see this happening lots, and I'm like, wow, thank goodness that we're
Yeah.
starting to open that door, because that was a weird time.
So different. Oh yeah, I
That was a weird
remember
time.
actually in that space, like maybe 2012, early 2013, I hosted a meetup. So like a meetup in Chicago, and I hosted it for beauty professionals. And again, it was literally like I just needed somebody. I was like desperate to connect with another artist who was solo and who could like totally understand what I was struggling with. And I remember creating it online. I had a whole like I put a little image behind it that I had like found on the internet, like come have cocktails with other beauty professionals. And it was literally me and whoever else would maybe want to join. And again, I remember taking that invite to the salon that I was renting from and being like, hey, you guys, 6 other independent artists, I'm gonna host this meetup. It's on this day at this time. Like, do you guys want to come? We can all like meet there beforehand, see whoever else comes. The deadpan faces that I literally got, like literally everyone was like, why would we do that? Like, no,
Right.
like, why would we want to go tell other people like what we're doing? And I just remember being so like, what? Okay. I mean, I have friends.
Yep.
I'm not looking for other friends. I could go out for cocktails with my girlfriends. I'm looking for like mentorship. Like, I
Yep.
want, I want someone to connect with professionally. Like, that's not valuable. And so again, I feel like we have leaps and bounds come from that space, but there's still this void in, especially now that we see how important it is to connect virtually. Like now I can connect with you in Canada. I can connect with
Yep.
Elizabeth Faye. I can connect with people, Nina Tulio in California, like all these artists who, again, in person in Chicago, I didn't have access to. And so when we take networking and we expand it virtually and digitally, and we start kind of learning from all these different communities and all these different mentors, the options and the opportunities are just endless forever. There's so many different things that we can collaborate and work together on.
Well, I think that's the benefit of technology. I think,
Yeah.
like we all have superpowers now, right? We
Yeah,
all have a
absolutely.
mobile phone that
Yep.
connects us around the world in seconds, which is amazing. And I think together, when we do lives like this and we get to host them and post them and go live with them, like, it just allows us to connect all of our communities together and create
Yeah.
what we call is like the buzz, right? Or hype around. So I always love is like, as soon as we started creating momentum in our communities was when we created like a buzz, or hype towards the
Yep.
product. And that's something that just takes a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And
And like
honestly,
you said,
like,
you can't buy it. It's like it has to like organically come. It's not, no one's going to buy in if you're just like paying for a bunch of people to say that this is a cool thing. It
no,
has to
you're
be an
right.
organic thing.
And you have to get to that moment where like it becomes news. Like, people are like, like the whole like Ross and Rachel thing. Have you heard about this?
No.
Like, Ross and Rachel from Friends are like now, like, side note,
Getting
they
back
might
together?
be getting back together.
Okay,
Yeah.
I saw something. I thought it was a joke. So yeah, that when you
I'm
said that,
like,
I was like, yeah, but then I was like, no, that must have been a joke I read. But that's actually happening. Okay.
right. And I'm like,
Interesting.
oh my, like, see, like, so it's like, to me, I'm like, this is also perfect marketing, for their new spin-off into their, coming back and
Uh-huh.
stuff. But
Yep.
also, this is great. Right after like Ben and Jennifer like get back together, now they're getting together. Like this is how you create news, people.
Yes,
This is how you do it.
absolutely. Absolutely. And you mentioned Hair Love. I'm actually going to be in Zion in 2 weeks, like at Hair Love attending. And that's something, again, I had signed on for this retreat in 2019, I think. So
Yeah,
again, like IBP was not even launched. IBP was not a real thing yet. It literally didn't exist when I decided to attend Hair Love. And then because of COVID, that was postponed. And now I'm in Education Foundations with Elizabeth Fay. She's one of my coaches. Like the I need a coach. I'm creating community and I need a coach for community. Like
yeah,
it's everything in that. And actually, I think about this too. There's like, I remember somebody telling me like Michael Jordan has a coach. So like, again, like you think about like anyone who you think of as an industry leader or anyone who you think of as, you know, overnight success, like they went through all the same coaching, they went through mentorship, they learned from other people, they created buzz
absolutely.
with partnerships and people who are like-minded. It's just how you get there faster.
It is. And I mean, like, if you look at any successful person, they probably have a team of people behind them that have, coached them and helped them and guide them to get to where they are. And
Yeah.
I think it's just, and I think that's the one thing. I mean, Elizabeth is just one powerful person. I think, she gets a lot of shout outs for what she's done. But again, it's another person that's creating a lot of, community and a lot of discussion around, some of these changes in our industry.
Yeah.
Um, okay, I want to kind of go into that a little bit about the future of salons, but to lighten things up, we're going to have a little bit of a flash round, which is just super fun.
Okay.
We call this series called Beneath the Foil. So it's a really quick little series. I'm going to ask you a few questions, and it's rapid fire. So the first thing that
Love
comes to
it.
your mind, go ahead and answer that. So
Okay.
I'll go ahead and ask you those questions, and we're going to play Beneath the Foil.
Beneath the foil, beneath the foil, we're gonna expose ya.
All right. What did you wish you knew before going solo?
Oh, well, the first thing that came to mind was that I have to rip my own foils, because I remember, I remember on my first like day being independent and opening my foil box and being like, oh my gosh, no one else is going to rip these. I have to like hurry up and rip all these foils. So like little silly things like that. But again, it just shows like you're taking on every single responsibility. And so I think that would be something I would say, like really think about every single thing you do day in and day out, because that's all that you're going to be doing when you're on your own.
You're going to be doing laundry and ripping lots of foils,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you
Every
have to
day.
do it unless you hire someone.
Yeah.
Number two, the best piece of advice you've ever received.
Just do it. Just go for it. Whatever it is, there's like no hesitation. If you have a calling or you have a download or there's something in there, just do it. See what happens.
All right. And if you go back in time, what is the one thing you would have done differently?
I would have started this sooner. I would have went down this path a lot sooner. Because again, I think that we hold ourselves back when we're intimidated or fearful. And if I can follow my own advice of just doing it, it would have been something I started a lot faster, because I know I'm on the right track.
Good for you. I like feel exactly the same. I think every one of us is like, we all feel like the best time to start was yesterday. That's my favorite
Yeah.
thing to say, is like best time to start was yesterday.
Yep.
And your actions speak louder than your words. So take the steps forward to the dreams that you want to build.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beneath the foil, beneath the foil, we're gonna expose ya.
So speaking about those dreams and speaking about the future, let's have a discussion around the future of salons and independence. Like I think the power's in the numbers. And I think, if we look at the independent market and we looked at, especially in North America, we're pushing closer to 80% independency, which is really, really great, which means there's a lot of power there. So the more communities we build, there's a lot of things that are going to happen here. So I would love to pick your brain about, what do you see? What do you think we can do to support the independent movement more? And what do you think that future is going to be?
Yeah. So I would say, like, first and foremost, I love commission based salons. So there's no part of me that's like independent or nothing. Everyone should be on their own. Everyone should rent their own space. Everyone should be an entrepreneur. I feel like there's so much value in learning from others. And so a lot of times out of beauty school, that's the right structure. That's the way to go. That's how I started. That's, again, so important. I do think that there needs to be strong leadership from salon owners. I think there needs to be mentorship and programs allowing artists to grow, whatever that looks like for them, where they get to decide. I think that's where sometimes commission-based salons may fall short, because they're kind of trying to like, no, stay here, and I think we're really seeing like so many people want to step into more growth and want to try new avenues, education maybe, or coaching, or, whatever it might look like. So I think that's going to be, as things continue to go in the trajectory that they're going, I think that more commission-based salons need to really provide growth opportunities and mentorship in a way that they can grow as much as they want to without any ceiling, where there's opportunity that way. But then on the flip side, I will say, I think there's going to be a lot of independent artists that jump right to renting space, right to entrepreneurship, and they are going to struggle. So I think that it comes down to curriculum. I think in beauty school, we really need to talk about these different business models and what is different about them, why they're, there's not good and bad. There's literally different reasons why you would choose one over the other. And I think that needs to be taught in beauty school before you know anything. I think that needs to be a core foundation of the education process. And I know it wasn't for me. I didn't know anything about independency or suite rental. Again, it was quite a while ago when things weren't as trajected to be in that focus like they are now. I think a lot of beauty schools will be incorporating more of that. And then I also see a lot of opportunity for artists who are independent to kind of have maybe a mentor program, again, something where they can learn from other people. So they can find one or two people in another, maybe even in another city, if that feels less intimidating. I know sometimes people do still have a little of that competitive feel. And so find somebody across the country, find somebody in Canada, find somebody in the US. Like, you can share so much that way. Yeah. And I think that's what's so special about our platform as we continue to grow. Our members are all across. We have members in Canada. We have a member in the UK, which is like so exciting. But again, as we keep growing, I think that's something, it's going to make that so easy where you can find people really quickly who you just vibe with, you connect with really, really well.
Yeah, I think that the future is powerful. And I think what we think today will be vastly different in the next 5 to 10 years. And
yeah,
I do think the landscape of salons are going to be dramatically disrupted, but for the better. I think
yes.
Our literacy on business knowledge and our financial literacy is increasing also at a rapid rate, which is such an amazing thing for this, this ecosystem of salons. Yeah. And I think, when it comes to, people like yourself and myself, I think that a lot of the people that held the control of this, this industry, the powerful ones, the all and mighty powerful ones, are going to get outnumbered. So there's going to be a lot 100%. More of us. So if we have the right mentors and the right communities built and the right education out and the right technology, we're going to be able to tap into that and use those insight to feedback. And that's kind of what I see. Same thing with you, as I see that, we're going to really be entering a digital age here for the salon world. And we're going to be putting power back into these salon owners. And salon owners include independent artists, because we are all salon owners.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's like that empowerment of like taking on business and feeling like so confident in that, like being so well-rounded that like, yep, I can run a business 100%. Like, I don't have any doubt in my mind that I can tackle this and take this on. And it can look so different. We're hosting our first retreat in November. It's a mobile beauty business retreat.
Yes.
Because again, I think another thing that we're going to see a lot more of, beauty businesses can be mobile. We can take them in a van, in an Airstream, and there's so many opportunities to expand your business outside of just like one city where you've built your clientele. I'm in the process of building out a van. It's like the hardest project I've ever taken on.
Good for you.
I'm so excited to be able to work remotely out of that space. And I think so many artists are now seeing like, I could have a barbershop in a van. I could have a facial space where I can provide very high-end luxury services, but on the side of a mountain. I think that's something that there's a lot of opportunity for. And so for us, I want to tap into all those opportunities. I want to show all those different scenarios to artists because, like I said, this industry is just so endless and abundant. And there's so many different directions that we can go.
Well, that's so true. I mean, if we can break down the fears and insecurities that we have facing our dreams, really, and ambitions, I think we can go a long way. And if we can't see it, then we can't achieve it. So the more people like yourself that are showing the success of it, I think that really helps. And ultimately, this is the movement that we want to be a part of, and we want to help mold the next generation to, not feel like they're stuck in one place. And when we look at the world as it sits right now, we're in a new world, and behaviorals have changed. The way that people want to live their lives are different, and the things that they value are vastly different than they were before. So we're no different than any other industry or sector, but we just need to come together to talk about what is possible so that we can keep elevating each other together.
Yeah. And there's so many, you and I touched about this before we started recording this episode, but there's so many people out there with good ideas. And I think in the beauty space, there's so many people in the beauty space that have really brilliant, genius ideas. And I think about, again, even for myself in 2018, when I had this idea, but I had no idea how to execute it, where to take it. I feel like even that, there's so much opportunity for other people like yourself and like Elizabeth and myself, as we went through these different processes of taking this idea and then like putting it out into the world and seeing what happens. There are so many people that have ideas but don't know where to start. So like, how do we flourish that? How do we like help people grow into that capacity without thinking like, I'm just a hairstylist? Because I remember thinking I'm just a hairstylist. You know, we need to empower more people in the tech space, especially, that they can create these opportunities and these ideas into like major businesses that really impact our industry.
Absolutely. I mean, if all you're missing is just a business plan and how to go to market, I mean, we could probably help you with that. But I think the thing is too, is like, come to, Lindsay's events, come and show up to these different things and all or message us, because we are here to help. If you have an idea, if you want to bring some type of technical, you have a tech idea, bring it to us. We've been able to do this in a short period of time. We could definitely help pave the way of what needs to happen. But also, you want to fail fast, or you want to get there, because you just said it before. It's like all those sleepless nights of like, I held on to this idea for 3 years before. Like I want everyone to have really good sleep and not keep thinking about the things they want to do. So if you just bring it up, at least more people like us could kind of help you validate what that is and kind of move on. But that's the sheer new tech founders we are. On what we want to do. So I'm going to wrap things up with just really letting people know a little bit what's coming up with you. You have that event, you said you're doing that retreat, but I'm sure there's much more coming up your way. So what are some things that are coming up your way?
Yeah, for sure. So we host virtual events regularly. So within our community, twice a month, we do virtual happy hours. Those actually, Alicia, that was one that you were on, where we bring on a special guest to talk about a relevant topic for the solopreneur. So our members gain access to those events at no additional cost, but we also offer tickets. So if somebody just wants to come on to learn about social media branding, we can just sell a ticket for that one experience, and you can take as much as you can out of that hour. We also host virtual networking events, which are my favorite because it allows everyone there a time to speak. So everyone who's there is saying, hey, I'm Alicia, I'm the CEO and founder of Salon. I'm looking to connect with independent colorists. And so it gives you the space to really kind of pitch yourself to other people. And then the objective is to take away connection, to take away somebody that can come on your podcast or that can collaborate with you on a webinar, so really taking something valuable and then going out and doing something with it. And then we're hosting, and those virtual networking events, they benefit our nonprofit beneficiaries. So each year we choose someone in the beauty space who's giving back, a nonprofit that speaks to that. So our beneficiary this year is Project Beauty Share. They're based in Washington, and they are providing, any sort of personal care items to families struggling, coming from homelessness, experiencing homelessness, coming out of tragic situations. We've had a ton of wildfires, so even stuff like that. So those ticket prices, all of that benefits Project Beauty Share. And then you're attending virtually our Evening en Blanc, our viewing party for Project Beauty Share. So it's our first in-person event in Chicago. It's going to be super small, but 2 of our ambassadors are flying in. I'm going to be flying there. And we get to get together. Fun. We're all in white, and we get to give back to Project Beauty Share. So we have a virtual link for people to join if they choose to. And again, that donation is going directly back to Project Beauty Share so that we can continue to benefit them, grow with them.
So amazing. I just love it. I think that's great. And so if anyone who has gotten to this point wants to get in touch with you, how can they find you?
Yeah. So, I mean, the easiest way would be to reach out via email or DM. So you can email us directly at hello@independentbeautypros.com. Our IG handle is Independent Beauty Pros, and our website is independentbeautypros.com. So again, it's any of those three methods of communication would be wonderful. We really do want to support independent artists. So if you feel like you're struggling in any capacity being alone, we have people who can help support you, and we have opportunities for you to support others.
Amazing. Well, thanks again for your time today. Honestly, Lynzie, it's been so great to connect with you, meet you, and help elevate this industry together with you. So I think, catch us. Hey, if you guys are at events this year, come and say hi to us. We'll definitely be together. And yeah, it was just been a pleasure having you on today. So thanks so much for joining us.
Vice versa. Thank you so much for having me.